Hello, a very, very good day to you. Welcome to another interesting episode of the program Sports Preview. We have seen how it is moving on all through this Premier League season, and we've been giving it a huge chance to win. We've all told you that Chelsea were going to get a straight win over West Ham United, and it did happen. And as I said, that you can trust our judgment. Just log on to www.maxbet.ng, create an account, get 300 naira for account creation. Deposit, first deposit guarantees you a 100% bonus on that very first deposit, so you can start winning on a platform where every day is a payday. Welcome once again. My name is Oji Oferdobolo. Today on the program, we're talking about the games coming through first Sunday in the Premier League, where Crystal Palace, the Eagles, will go against Nottingham Forest, the Tricky Trees, and of course we'll see Everton. Yes, the Toffees will be up against Brighton and Hove Albion, the Seagulls. It will be interesting also to see Fulham as they take on Manchester United at the Craven Cottage. An interesting game also to look out for in the Premier League for Sunday. So what we're doing here is to make sure that we give you a pre-game analysis and of course the betting odds that you can use to win big on MaxBet. Yes, when I say we, I'm talking about myself and the team. Flanked by my left and also by my right. By my right hand side is the man CI Zoro. Congratulations, Chelsea 5-1 winners over West Ham United. Of course, very well. And also the man Born Free Joe. You have been missing in action. Of course, I know you are back and better. It will be interesting also to start up with the biggest fixture of all of the fixtures. Manchester United still suffering under the tutelage of the man Ruben Amorim. A lot of predictions are saying if things do not work out this season, he might be the very first manager to get fired. But it's too early to start predicting. Because Fulham and Manchester United are both chasing their first Premier League win of the Premier League season. That is after falling short on match day 1. That is through the pair experiencing vastly different emotions in the opening fixture of this one. It's going to be an interesting game for these two sides. What I can tell you is that at Fulham, they are planning how to become a big side. We saw them vie for those European places last season, although later on they slipped away. But also Manchester United languishing just very much outside of those European places brings a game of two teams who are looking just a little equal by strength. Let's talk about this game, Fulham against United.
I think Fulham against United will be a game everybody will want to watch because Fulham playing at home. The last time they won against United at home was in 2009. That is way back. 2009. That was the last time they got a win at home against the United side. And you know what it tells. And last season, you saw what happened. They lost at home to United. They lost at away to United. That's 1-0. So, to tell you the truth, I think it's really going to play the same again. He's still going to play.
Of course, they're looking at it to play out just the same way it did the last time. Born Free Joe. Fulham escaped from their trip to Brighton with a point late on, scoring the 97th minute equalizer to salvage that draw. But of course, we all know it's not the same case with United, who were beaten 1-0. Calafiori with that goal that made all the difference, the Italian defender. Let's see what you think about a game like this.
Let's start from the both teams are looking for a particular point, 3 points. Fulham went on 1-1 with Brighton the last time. Arsenal beat Manchester United 1-0, and it's been rickety. Let me use that word for the Manchester United side because with the whole how do I put it? With the whole vibration they came with this season, everybody would have been expecting that their match day 1 they would have either drew or beaten Arsenal to an extent. But let's get away from that. Now Fulham, just like you said, last season tried to be a major contender for major competition. Unfortunately, it slipped off their hands. But let's equally remember that Manchester United have won just 3 of their last 3 Premier League away games, And those 3 wins were all against Fulham. So they have a history with Fulham as regards beating them, especially on the way one. You understand? So, and then they've kept just one clean sheet from their last 8 Premier League away games, which is still not good for Manchester United on the other hand. And I think Fulham has only won 4 of their last 23 Sunday held Premier League games and home games, drawing 5 and losing 14, which is equally very, very nice. Now, the point is, these 2 teams are teams that are actually looking for survival. You get? So, at this particular point, everybody would want to outdo themselves to be able to prove a point. That's the way I see this particular.
Of course, interesting. They both understand that 3 points is all that they can be looking out for in the very early stages of this season. Amorim will need to leverage on the positive feeling into points soon, because he lost 15 of his last 28 Premier League games, and just in charge of the Red Devils, winning 7 and drawing 6 of those. So already more losses than he suffered in 167 times that he was in charge in the Portuguese top flight. And that's to tell you how difficult it is to manage United. We see the likes of Jose Mourinho, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, David Moyes, Louis van Gaal. The men can go on and on to find the right man who can lead this team to the right destination of where they belong as a top club. Just to remind you, the last time United won the league, it was Sir Alex Ferguson, the legendary manager, who was in charge of this United side. It's still very important to also point out with how it is that Fulham have won just one of their last 19 Premier League head-to-heads. Drawing 3 and losing 15, losing in each of their last 8 in a row at the Craven Cottage. Sort of pointed it out and how important it is that if they can capitalize on what they've been doing when they go to play the Craven Cottage United, they can churn out the win. And I know that with the addition of the likes of Mateus Cunha and of course Bryan Mbeumo, even with the top striker in that team, they can probably be talking about getting all 3 points at Craven Cottage yet again.
Yes, but you know what? I think like Arsenal game against Manchester United, to me, I think United was the best.
The better side with the ball. But let me still point out that if you play a game, no matter how good you are, and fail to score, I do not regard whatever you've done.
We can't dwell on the statistics.
Yeah,
statistics is one thing, but we can't entirely dwell.
Yeah, but then if they had played a game and lost, say 3-2, 5-4, like you can say they were the best team of the night, that it was just down to luck or a few technicalities. But when you play a full 90 minutes of football in front of your home fans at the Theatre of Dreams, and you lose 1-0 to an arch rivals like Arsenal, who you have failed to beat in the last 3 seasons, then you put yourself and the fans in disbelief in the very first game of the season against an arch rival. So that's how I see it. And I also dissolve the belief, just like a lot of top technical directors at FIFA are saying, if a game should end 0-0, the 2 teams should have no points, in my own opinion. Because football is all about goals. You don't come into games and fail to score. I feel it's impossible. It's even better shipping more goals at the back and get a goal, because you need to create goals. But away from all of that, we know how this game can be. Of course, we know we'll be looking at the players like Rodrigo Muniz to come through to play very well here. Let me still remind you that Fulham will not be with their left backs, Antoine Robinson and of course Ria Sessegnon, who are started on Brighton game with injuries. Manchester United, of course, the look set that they are likely to be without their defensive duo of Musa Mazraoui and Lisandro Martinez. And we can also talk about it that United have got a lot of injury-prone players, and I think that's part of their problem. Let's talk about it.
I think so. Their injury problem is always when you talk of injuries, United always gets a fair share of it.
Very, very well.
Get the fair share. So I think it will also affect them this season. I wish they can still go into the market before the transfer window ends to get at least fresh more legs.
And I feel interested. They need someone in that centre back situation if there's anything to go by for United. But just like we saw Chelsea struggling against Crystal Palace, but again in the game against West Ham, it just looked like the mistakes are corrected. You saw a different
formation,
a different approach to games.
But
even with Kopama limping off at warm up. So what I'm just trying to say is that this game would decide if Amorim will be the stubborn Amorim or think about changing tactics to start winning games, and he will start now. Okay, we'll see what happens with all of that. So straight up now, where we'll be talking about one team that have been promoted to play in the Europa League, and playing against a team that was denied to play in the Europa League. Because remember, of course, Crystal Palace qualified via the FA Cup to play in the Europa League, but now they were demoted, and the right given to Nottingham Forest because the owners of Crystal Palace they also own Olympique Lyonnais, who is of course very much involved in the UEFA Europa League. So that is how it favored Nottingham Forest, and they got a boost of money and they've been spending big. But of course, they let some of their good players go. Let's talk about this game. Premier League opener at Selhurst Park this season. Both sides very impressive stats to this season that they had. What are we to expect?
I think Crystal Palace and Nottingham Forest has an history of not scoring more than two goals in almost 5 of their last games. Having scored in the last game was 1-1.
So saying under
2.5. They hardly scored over 2.5 in their game. So I hope this season will be a better option, because it will still show that both teams went into the market, not considering the fact that Nottingham Forest made away some of their best leg to at least to leverage their I think is it the market value or what, to get something out of that. I think they will do better this season by trying to win Crystal Palace, to prove to them that yes, we are going into the FA into the Europa to do something, and you just watch it and see what will come out with.
Of course, watching them see what they come out with, because they still even sent out messages to Palace saying that they do not feel it's just that they are going to be interchanged. Not something the fans are bragging about. They feel like it's something they cannot, because I feel like maybe if they had a choice, they wouldn't have wanted to take it. But then it is what it is. Life as a Crystal Palace fan is really been better than over in the past 6 months, if you look at it very well, because the supporters are beginning to see trophies coming. The FA Cup triumph, of course, in the first game against Chelsea, like I talked about, we saw Palace showing why they are Palace. At the cutting razor of the Premier League against Liverpool, we saw Palace lift, of course, the Community Shield. That tells you about what a team is building. But I have a little boy, Eberechi Eze, who is getting ready to leave for Arsenal. Meaning that the Eagles' current 6-match unbeaten home win one could be under pressure. They've won 4 and drawn 2. But with Eberechi Eze leaving the squad, do you really think it's going to change a whole lot? Because he's the star man. Take it or leave it. We saw them lose Michael Olise to Bayern Munich. I will know what Olise is doing in the German Bundesliga now. And now Eberechi Eze is thinking about Arsenal. Still in London. He chose Arsenal over Tottenham Hotspur. Do you think Eberechi Eze leaving Crystal Palace reduce them to something lower?
Basically, I think Eberechi Eze has given a lot of impact, scoring impactful goals over and over again for that particular Crystal Palace side. And I think personally, it's going to be a hitch. Not with that, except they have of which they don't.
They might get, the window is still open. They have a whopping £60 million to spend.
We are banking on the present, and then the present they don't. So because they don't, it is going to seriously affect. Even when they do add, it is still going to seriously affect them for some time before they blend them.
Okay, let's see what happens if they do get. But let me just remind that Crystal Palace have failed to win any of their 10 previous Premier League meetings with Nottingham Forest. Joyce is losing 4. Good of the most they've ever faced a side without winning. So that's the most favorites have faced a side without losing in the competition. So it is a game that all odds favors the Tricky-Trees, like it whether. But also with Eberechi Eze not looking like he will be available for this fixture. Even puts them at more risk, like maybe Crystal Palace will continue their very, very fine run.
I feel just like you said, it's going to be a very, very big match in the sense that, for an example, last season aside from Liverpool, Nottingham Forest were the only teams to have succeeded 10 wins straight up. Having won more Premier League games. Liverpool had 11, Nottingham Forest had 10. You understand? Now, if we are to judge by that, Nottingham Forest, I beg your pardon, will be coming with a lot of their arsenals to this particular match, and it's going to be a very big blow for Crystal Palace without their front man, at least for the last time this particular season. It's going to be a tough one.
Very tough one it will be, but let's look at statistics. They are very glaring. 5 of Palace's last 7 Premier League matches have ended in draws. And of course, they've won 2 of those. 11 of Crystal Palace's last 15 home matches. They've seen both teams to score. And of course, we're looking at it, but of course, you talk about the importance of looking at what a scoreline is always when these two sides meet. Only Liverpool, who've won 11, have got more away Premier League games. Have won more away Premier League games last season than Nottingham Forest. They were very good on the year. In fact, if they were going to any home, they were looking sure. Liverpool got 11 and they got 10. Liverpool won the league. And you know how important it is to make sure that you win games away from home? And I think they were the important ingredient that landed them to that European place finish in the league. And of course, they got the deserving reward by going to play the Europa League, and they didn't merit it. 3 of the last 4 league goals Forest have conceded have come in the 75th minute and above. I think Nuno Espirito Santo need to care a lot about what happens in the ending embers of games, because he needs to, talk about concentration for his team. And I think that's where a team gets so solid, because you can just lose concentration, and the loss of concentration can see a lot of things change in the dying moments of the game. Just before we round off on this one, it will be interesting to tell you that Palace have a number of injuries. Of course, the concerns are big. Among them are Eddie Nketiah, of course, that missed out on the match against Chelsea. We have Nicolas Dominguez was absent also from Forest win over Brentford with a knee problem. So for all of those, we're looking at one of these games can bring, and we know where it will be interesting. Chris Wood struck a brace for Forest in the opening day, the win over Brentford, and he started scoring again. Remember, he won a couple of back-to-back games last season. So Chris Wood is not getting tired. He's been banging the goals. Although he got tired somewhere around the ending of the season where they needed him the most, but I feel like they've got enough things working. They've got additions even from the French league that will be helping them in the European outings, and we'll see what happens. We'll come back to the match with Sean Brandaber segment and make predictions for this game. But before we go, to be good to look at, have a good look, because Everton will make their long-awaited Premier League debut at their home stadium. Now, it's called the Hale Dickinson Stadium, to bounce back from an opening match they defeat at Leeds United, while Brighton are coming after they were held in a 1-1 draw later by Fulham. Yes, it's always good to open up a new stadium. It happened in Abuja Stadium for Nigeria. I would never forget it, where Brazil were invited to play against Super Eagles in the opening match of that stadium. And I was wondering why Brazil. Maybe they want to beat Brazil and make it a big one in the headlines, but Brazil hammered Nigeria 3 goals to 0 in the Abuja Stadium. And ever since then, I can tell you that the Abuja Stadium have never been a good fortune of luck for qualification for Nigeria. It was in Abuja Stadium that we lost lots and lots of qualification, including the last World Cup in Qatar, where Ghana came and the match ended 1-1. Remember, it ended 0-0 in Ghana, and we failed to replicate, where it was Thomas Partey who fired from outside the 18-yard, and the rest was history. So I feel like your first game
matters
at a new stadium is important. A lot of persons still believe that jerseys, stripe colors, and all of that are important in games, but I don't know. But let's talk about Everton, who will play at the Hale Dickinson Stadium. What are we expecting?
I think Everton are presently struggling. In their last 6 games, they've not gotten a win. The highest they got was a draw. Their last win was against Newcastle. That was in May 2020. That was late. That's May. That was their last win. So today they are struggling. They managed to stay in the Premier League, having dodged the relegation. You understand what it means? managing to stay there. So I think they should try and show what they are made of. They should try and show what they are made of. I saw their opening game against Leeds United. They promote a newly promoted side. They were beating Leeds.
Leeds United.
So I don't think Everton may survive this season if they continue this.
Yeah, especially if they do not sign, because that team injuries are taking a huge toll on them. And I think injuries affect the plans of every manager, and all they need to do is to make those additions. But look at why injuries are very difficult. When you make these additions, when these players recover, what happens to the additions? And players and their agents make these inquiries.
Yeah.
If I'm coming to help a team that's got a very, very prolific striker, and I'm coming as a backup because he's injured, when he recovers, what happens to my career? Remember, it's a World Cup year.
And everybody
wants
to play the World Cup. Yeah.
So let's talk about briefly before sort of comment with what he thinks about this game, about those injured. Everton are without Gerard Bradway. Possibly also they don't have Vitaly Mykolenko, while Brighton have no fresh injury worries following the clash against Fulham coming through. So you look at all of those injury problems and begin to wonder what's the way forward with David Moyes, who redeemed them from relegating last season. But I think one of the things the hierarchy will tell him is make sure we stay afloat, and maybe that will do for a season. What's your take on this game?
I think Everton started off low this season. Brighton, on the other hand, has been superb. Brighton has scored, 2 goals in 5 of their 6 away league games.
Two plus
Two plus goals, yes, I beg your pardon. I think Everton has lost their first 2 games, in each of their three seasons. Now, first 2 of those starters are for the 3 seasons. Now, Brighton, on the other hand, just like I said before, have won their last 2 Premier League away games, and then this was in succession between 2023 by beating Everton in the 3rd game. So they've been prone to beating Everton before now, and then they started off well. They had more good statistics, although they ended up in a draw for their first match. I'm talking about Brighton right here. So I think Everton has to bring all their armors together, just not to be humiliated at their new stadium, because it's going to be a very fierce fight for Everton up against Brighton, who is seated comfortably in good form, unlike the Everton side.
Of course, we all know that it will be the 49th different stadium. Moyes has managed a Premier League game at only Arsene Wenger, who managed the game in 54. And as far as we know, 52 have taken charge at more. And we all know that if he's done 49th different stadium, there are chances he will be able to beat these records, because of course Wenger is no longer in the coaching business, and of course Alex Ferguson, the person with 54 and 52, is something he can break, having done 49 if he goes to play in the new Tottenham Stadium. That's why we love football, the longevity that comes along with it, and all of the dynamics that can get changing in a beautiful, beautiful world of football. Is interesting to talk about. Of course, Everton and Brighton is where we wrap things off on this particular analysis segment. So we go straight to the MaxBet Show Banger Bet segment, and of course, at the MaxBet Show Banger Bet segment is where we can sit tight and look at where we can go through with all of the predictions. And of course, CI0 and the man Bonfrey Joe can come through and aid me with those predictions as we can go. Remember, it's on MaxBet, www.maxbet.ng is where you can book up these tickets and start winning. So let's see what we have here as it stands. First off, United up against Fulham is the first game in view. Bonfrey, what are your takes?
I think the United straight win.
United to get a straight win in this one. Let's look at what MaxBet is saying. MaxBet is saying it's going to be 3 odds. Yes, 3.36 odds for a win in favor of Fulham. Yes, I'm correct. Yes, and United are going to be having 2.21 odd. So that's what Bonfrey is saying for a straight win. What's your take?
I think it's a double chance.
United.
Yeah.
Double Chance United.
Yes, double
Double
chance
Chance
United.
Fulham.
No, double chance United.
Okay, Double Chance United according to CR Zoro. And that takes us away. Let's look at what Everton and Brighton is saying in your opinion.
I think the Everton and Brighton, I think a Brighton win or draw.
Brighton
Win or draw.
win or draw in your opinion. So what are you predicting?
I think Brighton will be securing all 3 points.
All 3 points of Brighton. That is, you can go for a Brighton straight win, which is very, very much. Brighton is the away team. And if you think about Brighton and Maxwell, you should be seeing a 2.40 odd. That's a 2.40. For those of you who are very much in love with 2 odds, according to CI Zero, you can just take Brighton and away win up against Everton and go to sleep and think about when you're going to cash out. Remember to bet responsibly and management that betting Nigeria is for 18 years and above. And don't forget that betting is with your spare money. Okay, let's look at where Palace at the Selhurst Park will be welcoming and Nottingham Forest. What's your take about that one?
I think for me, an under 2.5.
Under 2.5, yes, you talked about where their games is not having more than 2 goals in the last few encounters. What's your take?
It's a draw, but both teams to score.
Okay, a draw and both teams to score possibly. And so you can just go that when you say draw or both teams to score. So any of those can go in a lot of that game, with 2 of the last 3 meetings ending 1-1 draw. So back in the draw and both teams to score looks very much likely. And of course, we had Bonfrey talk about how an under 2.5 could be possible because the games are likely ending without not more than 2 goals, and we can see what it is. Yes, that's the much we can take on this particular episode. The lads have come through with wonderful predictions. I tell you often that there is a 100% bonus for you to go grab just on your first deposit on MaxBet. Because if you are OG already on MaxBet, you know that we win big here. You can also get 300 naira just for registering. So tell somebody to register so you can start winning big. Remember, terms and conditions apply. This is the much we can take today's episode of Sports Preview, powered by MaxBet of Bua Community Voice. Thank you very much, Godfrey. It's always a pleasure. And to you, thank you for your wonderful analysis and, of course, predictions to match. My name is OG of the W, saying adios.